Okay, how you doing? Still hanging in there. Okay, this is video number 2 of my my 3 videos that will wreck the algorithm for me. I want to talk today just about how and where I was at the 500K mark, when my net worth, or I should, actually, spoiler alert, our net worth hit 500K. That's me and my wife. So I'm just making these videos again, putting them out there on YouTube just for people to see. I know not a lot of people will search and find these, but they're out there for reference, and just wanted to share with you guys my journey, just to show that it's attainable, possible for anyone who's out there to improve their financial literacy and put those words into action. So these are important because I think this story is important for you to know. There's nothing special that I'm doing. It's possible for everyone. Let's get to it. Roll that bumper. All right, so thanks for checking out the channel, guys. If you're new here, my name is Sean. I talk about my journey to financial freedom, personal finance, investing, all that kind of stuff. If you're interested, please consider hitting that subscribe button. We will get back to talking about investing and that kind of thing after I'm done this set of videos. I just really wanted to get these done and have them out there because I think it's an important part of my story that I just wanted to share with everyone. So without further ado, let's just jump into where I was when I hit that 500K mark. So I can tell you with certainty, May 2017, I was 32 years old, hit that 500K mark for the first time, 500K in my net worth, and that wasn't after I combined, net worths with my wife, and we had gotten married the year previous. Still living in the city that I grew up in. Right at that point, I was living in a 2-bedroom condo. Now, if you guys want to hear the story about the 1-bedroom condo, that's in the previous video. But at this point, I had found another unit in the building, waited for prices to come down a little bit further, bought a unit that already had renters in it, and when they moved out, I decided, hey, I want to kind of change the carpet, do some things in that. But after spending all the money on that unit, I decided it's a lot nicer than where I was living, so I moved into that one, and then I rented out the 1-bedroom. I did that with the intent of possibly getting a roommate to really help me out on my rent, but life kind of happened. I ended up going away to work, and I had gotten engaged at the time, so I never really ended up getting a roommate, but that is where I lived with my wife when we first got married. As far as what I was driving, I had sold the Mazda 3 at that time, and I bought a 2011 Jeep Wrangler, which is another really good vehicle that I look back fondly on now. And you know what? I bought that thing for like $13,500, and I ended up selling for $11,500 like 5 years later. It didn't depreciate very much. I gotta say, of all my vehicles, it held its value the best. Now, going back to kind of talking about shelter, our living situation in the condo was pretty good. Because we were kind of offsetting our rent with the rent from the 1-bedroom, we didn't pay a lot per month, which allowed us to save up a bunch for what was going to become the down payment on our first house, the house that I am now recording these videos in. And if there's a spot where I have learned a lot of lessons, it's like in buying and selling some of these properties. Like I said before, those condos, I probably wouldn't have bought those if I could do everything again, just because I find that their value sometimes tends to be eroded by rising condo prices, and they're probably not as solid as an investment as maybe getting a house that has like 2 units in it or something like that you can rent out separately. But that's okay. The good thing is that when we did decide to buy this house, we did it very intentionally. We looked at all the different scenarios, and we decided that buying was in fact better than renting for us based on the timeline we were going to keep this house. We felt that after looking at the numbers, after some average appreciation, holding onto the house for 10 years or longer, it was actually going to be better to buy than to pay rent for that long in our particular situation, based on where the rental market was and the housing market was for purchases. So I encourage everyone to do that type of research, go very in depth, spend a lot of time and shop around. It took us about a year after we got married to find the house that hit our price point. And the biggest thing we did here, of course, was we bought a house that was about half of what the bank said we could afford. Living way under your means when it comes to your mortgage is very, very beneficial, and we would not be able to have a goal of paying off our mortgage early had we not done that. Our earning potential has increased since we bought the house. And I'm not saying that to brag, but it's just kind of, as you get more experience, that is what is supposed to happen in your career. But in kind of being modest in our house purchase, doing a lot of the fix-ups and the renovations ourselves to save money, it puts us in a really good position. And when we looked at our how much money we were earning, we kind of said to ourselves, well, why don't we, it's a big goal, but why don't we just pay off the mortgage now? So that wasn't our intent when we first bought the house, but now when we're looking at where we want to be in the next 10 years, that is a big goal of ours, is to pay this off. And we're on track to do that by the end of 2022. So if we manage things properly, that's where we're going to be. But anyway, biggest takeaway there, get a place that is well below what the bank says you can afford. Now I'll go back and talk about the house and car a little bit together. One great thing about this place and why we decided to buy it and fix it up ourselves was really the location. While it's not, inner city or anything, it's walking distance to a train line, which means we were able to save on the overall cost of the house. Again, making it very affordable for us, but it also means that we've been able to get away with just one vehicle because our daily commute is just via the train. So even when Nat is on mat leave, she can have the vehicle. I can go back and forth to work, if I was working from the office right now. But that also is a huge expense. Not having a second vehicle to pay for insurance and gas and maintenance also allows us, again, to continue to save and just keep our operating expenses really, really low. Now we'll talk a little bit about food and entertainment. I mean, we still went out, we still vacationed, we still, paid off our credit cards on time. This credit that I had built up by paying off my student loan, and my wife had done the same thing, that allowed us to get as good a rate as we could on our mortgage. And that low rate, again, helps us in achieving some of our other goals, enjoying life in the now a little bit, but also being able to pay off the house sooner than we had expected. Now let's talk a little bit about income. Now, I wasn't making much more in 2017 than I was, a couple years before that. In fact, I noticed that my salary is kind of plateauing, which is okay, because there was another big event that happened in 2017, which I mentioned, which is that I got married. And I spent that year that I was engaged out of town working at a bit of an extra salary. That extra salary went towards paying for our wedding so that we could maintain our financial goals through one of the biggest expenses you'll probably have in your 20s or 30s, depending on the person, right? But this is where the biggest difference is with getting married, is that we tend to focus on the expense of the wedding, but what we really need to focus on with our partners is getting on the same page with your long-term financial goals. The wedding is going to come and go. You can budget for it. Hopefully you guys are good at sticking to the budget. You're talking a lot, communicating, and there's a little bit of give and take there. But you need to get on the same page with your partner on the long-term financial goals, because those are really the big ones. And you both need to be on the same page, maybe even reading the same books about building wealth and what those goals should be for you to retire comfortably, but still enjoy life now. I wouldn't be able to buy a house that was half of what the bank recommended we could buy had my partner not been on the same page about just getting a very affordable house. So that's kind of what I'm trying to say, is that you guys need to be on the same page for those types of expenses. If you're not, they could lead to a lot of friction, and it may prevent either of you from getting to your financial goals. I can't really stress enough how important it is to keep your significant other in your financial goal plan and have the same plan in mind and talk about it often. So you don't have to both be accountants about it, but you should be communicating to each other to understand where you guys are sitting and what needs to be done in order to achieve your goals, on a monthly basis. Now let's talk a little bit about investing. At this point in the journey, I was still largely in mutual funds, but I had started kind of my education about investing. I did probably what a lot of people do, is I actually started to invest in one or two individual stocks. What was great is that it didn't work out well for me, and I learned my lesson early that wasn't the best way to invest. And I ended up waiting on a lot of those stocks to recover, as long as even 3 years to get some of my money back. So that wasn't very good. But luckily I didn't invest too much in individual stocks. Most of it was still in mutual funds, but this is when I started that education, learning about index funds, learning about the fees, learning about all that stuff. And it was right around this time that I kind of started to pull all my money out of that and put it into Questrade index funds, and really start to do take responsibility for my own investing. And that's all I really have for the 500K mark. It's starting to get really simple investments. This is the point. Like I say, I'm starting to just get familiar with what it is, where I'm at with paying my fees. What am I paying in fees every year? If you guys are interested, I have some of my first videos were about talking to my financial planner, some of the questions I asked him, and why I kind of stopped using mutual funds. Again, if you guys have questions about my journey and how it's going, what I did for certain aspects of my life, let me know in the comments. I'm happy to answer those questions. It is my own personal story, and we'll continue with one more video like this, and I promise we'll be getting back to investing. But anyway, have a great week, guys. Spread the wealth. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.